Hey, what's up? Hello, welcome. Okay, first of all, I recorded this entire video that I was about to do, and then I went to go watch it and realized that somehow I tried sharing my screen. I thought I was sharing my screen the entire time. It's just me on camera reacting to um the video, but you cannot hear it, you can't see it. So yeah, anyway, I had 2 videos planned today. I was supposed to do this video. It's just a few videos that I feel like are important right now as we wait for Monday in the Lori Daybell case. And then I was going to do a kind of like start my reactions to the Richard Allen interrogation footage. But it looks like, I don't know, it's very late at night, and I think that after this video, I am done. If it doesn't work out, I'm just gonna go to bed because honestly, I don't know what to do. I thought that I had all my settings worked out. Maybe I just, haven't, figured this out. But yeah, anyway, so let me go ahead and see. Um, So yeah, I don't know. I also exited out of all the videos, so I'm just gonna kind of have to go back and do that. Anyway, um, I set that video to private because I was like, okay, well, doesn't make any sense. Let me go ahead and turn the sound off for this because I just want to make sure that when I'm sharing my screen, um, that it's actually working out this time because I don't want the same thing. So what I'm gonna have to do is I have to share my entire screen because last time I only shared a tab. Um, so I might have to do the entire screen. So sorry, there might be a little bit of a like kind of weird um thing. Anyway, share system audio, entire screen, share. I need to get 2 monitors. Maybe that'll work out. Okay. All right. So, oop, and we are not even where I'm supposed to be. And you can just see this is a video that I did. Let me go back. Okay. I'm sorry. Like I said, um am I sharing my screen? Got it. Add to stage. Oh, maybe I have to do that. Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. I think I figured it out. Let's hope. Hold on. I'm going to mute my mic for a second. All right, perfect. Okay, so I think I figured it out. Again, sorry for the craziness. It's like the first time I'm ever doing like a screen share. So let me go ahead and go to my history because these 3 videos are, yeah, I don't know. So I'm getting a lot of like what is it, sister wives content on my screen. Let's see. History. Oh my god, this is so okay, history. I'll just seen all my business right now. Okay, so watch history. I was watching my things. So the first video we're gonna watch is it was an interview with 4 attorneys. Well, technically, one of them is a judge, but former attorney, I guess. And we'll just kind of see. Let me get the timestamp for this one. All right. So we're gonna kind of go to around 9:30.
Fact.
Wow.
Hold on. All right. 9:30. Again, I'm very sorry. Oh wait, no, I think you know what? I think that this is kind of okay, so let me just kind of I don't know if you can see my little pointer here, but the first person on the upper left corner of the screen, this person, she is um, the former prosecutor for the Lori Daybell case. I don't know their names. I'm sorry. I'm bad at names. This guy on the upper right, he is actually Charles Vallow's former attorney. So he was the one who wrote up all of those divorce documents. He also, and the reason why I pulled up this video is because he actually has quite a lot of um, insight on certain things that Charles was telling him before he ultimately passed away. This guy right here, he is the former prosecutor in Maricopa County, or no, so former defense. Oh my gosh, words today. I'm sorry. He was a defense attorney in the Jodi Arias case. So he was in the courtroom right across from Lori Daybell's years ago. And then this is a former judge. So yeah, anyway, I'm just making sure that um I'm not gonna hide this. Okay. Just making sure. Again, I'm checking my screen just to make sure that everything's good. Okay. Again, I'm very sorry. We're just figuring this out as we go along. I'm just making sure that you guys can hear everything. All right. So
That side of the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of my reaction was kind of twofold. Well, first,
this is Taylor Larson. He's Charles Vallow's former attorney. So, like I said, he's the one who wrote all of those documents. He wrote all of the divorce proceedings. And yeah, this is just him talking about the case.
excited that we finally got to it. I know that people watching have been clamoring for these steamy text messages to be presented to this jury. And, most of us knew all along that this was going to be the final bow that Trina K was going to put on the case before giving it to the jury or passing the case to the defense. But the other part of my reaction was frustration, Justin. I mean, I said it on day one of the panel back on the first day of trial during opening statements that my number one, the thing I wanted to see the most was Chandler PD's testimony, law enforcement's testimony on the investigation of this and kind of why they waited so long to bring charges. Lori wasn't charged with this until 2 years afterwards, June of 2021, after she'd already been charged with the murders of JJ, Tylee, and Tammy, and a month after the kids' bodies had been found. So, and knowing what I know.
So this is a question I feel like we all have is why didn't they prosecute Lori Vallow sooner in this case? We already knew as soon as there was just an inkling of suspicion with what happened to the kids. And I genuinely remember in the beginning of this case when this first started, when I didn't even know the beliefs or any details about this case, when it was still kind of like the doomsday mom narrative that everybody was pointing out with Lori Vallow. I remember them talking about the fact that her husband was mysteriously shot months before the kids disappeared, and that's suspicious. So there was suspicion even before the kids were found. And so I just think that so many people saw the writing on the walls and realized there's something wrong here. And I just don't understand why the prosecutors didn't do anything. Why the state of Arizona didn't do anything. Now I know that there was a former prosecutor talking about this case and how the fact that um now obviously because even though this case happened, or so Charles died before the kids, died before Tammy, even though he's the one who kind of, or his death is the one that kind of pushed all of these other things to the forefront. um the the reason why they prosecuted her first in Idaho is because they kind of go not like a chain of command, but basically Idaho was the state that caught her. So usually they will try somebody in the state that they're caught if they are committed, if they're committed of crimes in several states. And then um, I believe that they will go to the state first where like either the person has the most charges or if the charges are more damning. So if they're eligible for more punishment, they'll go to the first, that state is the one that they'll go to first. I don't want to misquote, but that's what I believe they said in the beginning of this interview. I don't know. Anyway, let's continue listening to what Taylor Larson has to say.
Back when this first went down in July of 2019, I had Charles's family members reaching out to me, telling me, "Hey, can you talk to, the Detective Moffat, who's the lead investigator of the case, and tell him, hey, look, Charles foretold of this, and he said who was going to do it, and it played out exactly like he said 6 months ago, and really exposed the belief system that we put in those divorce documents back in February of 2019." And so, I reached out to Detective Moffat. I never got a call back. I never heard from any law enforcement after that, in fact.
Wow.
And
And remind
some of
us
that,
the time frame again of when you called.
Okay, so this is just another upsetting thing. It's like he actually contacted law enforcement with these details. And listen, I know that in court, a lot of things that he says or that he said that Charles said might not be might be seen as hearsay, right? Also, too, I'm sure there's some sort of client attorney privilege when it comes to this stuff. But just the fact that his attorney, the person again who wrote the divorce documents, was concerned and contacted law enforcement. He didn't even get like maybe a rejection or like somebody saying, listen, we're looking into it. We get your concern. Like he didn't get a single reply from any of these law enforcement, Detective Moffat included. Now, Detective Moffat was the former case agent in Charles Vallow's case. I believe he either retired or like was promoted or something like that. And now it's Detective Duncan who's on the case agent, and there was questions on whether or not Detective Moffat would be called to the stand, either in the prosecution or the defense. Now, obviously, we know that Lori is not calling anybody at the moment. It's TBD if she will. But the prosecution, even though he was subpoenaed and on the witness list, he was ultimately not tried. And I think a lot of it was because possibly the fact that Lori was questioning Detective Duncan so hard about why didn't they prosecute sooner. I think it wouldn't be a good look for the state to put this guy on the stand. The guy who basically said, like, I don't see anything wrong here. I feel like it's self-defense. And then, or maybe he didn't feel like it, but ultimately didn't see enough evidence to prosecute. And then, they didn't prosecute Lori until 2 years after, you know, in 2021, which is, years after the kids were found and after she was prosecuted in Idaho.
and this is weeks after the murders,
Okay.
after Charles's murder. We're talking July of 2019. And I had multiple family members of Charles reach out to me saying, hey, here's Detective Moffat's information. And I told them, hey, I reached out to him, have him reach out to me because, he's not reaching out to me. And, I don't know why. I don't know why. My biggest question is why I was never contacted. Some of it may be that they were worried about attorney-client privilege, which is a valid reason, but they didn't even attempt to talk to me. And most of it wasn't even privileged because it was put in the court filings, which is, public record. And Charles even told me, hey, if anything happens to me, tell everybody that it was Lori and her brother Alex. So, to me,
Did all of y'all hear that? Charles told him that if anything happens to him, it was Lori and her brother Alex. Wasn't anybody else. Now, this is one of the things that frustrates me, and this is actually all that I wanted to present right now. And let me go ahead and remove this from. Okay. All right. So, yeah, I just don't understand. You know, I feel like a lot of times in these cases when somebody is like, hey, listen, if something happens to me, it's this person, especially if it's your spouse or former spouse. Why don't people look into this? Why doesn't law enforcement see that as a red flag? I know that there are some people who are dramatic and, might be wrongfully accusing people. But in a lot of these cases, when they say, listen, if something happens to me and it's this person, most of the time it is that person, or they at least have some sort of say in it. Charles literally foretold his own murder. He said that if anything happened to him, either it would be Lori and her brother Alex. And that's exactly what happened. Weeks later. I just think that's so frustrating. I can only imagine how frustrating um how frustrated him and his family are, trying to get a hold of detectives and, anybody that would listen to them. Seeing that Lori was being prosecuted for the kids' murders and Tammy's murder, and then, like obviously they were like, hey, listen, Charles, his death is the one that started it all. Now, I do also believe that Joe Ryan was murdered by Lori as well, or at least Alex. But you know, when I say like Charles's death was the one who kind of like not spearheaded, but what is it like pushed along all of these other unfortunate events. I just mean like in the Chad and Lori saga, because obviously Joe Ryan was post or pre Chad. Um, but yeah, anyway. So yeah, that was the first video. Like I said, we have 4 videos that we're going to be um or 3 videos, sorry. I don't know how I added an extra video in there. But yeah, so we have another video that I want to bring up. This one is going to be this is actually so Melanie Pulowski, let me go back. Sorry. Let me get the timestamp for this one, by the way. Melanie Pulowski, as most of y'all know, is Lori Daybell's niece. So she had a sister, or Lori Vallow had a older sister named Stacy. Stacy unfortunately passed away by mysterious circumstances. Back in the 90s, I believe. And Melanie Pulowski is her daughter. Now Melanie Pulowski, it was somebody I would kind of refer to as Lori's mini me. She is literally like a mini Lori. Like, let me tell you, like whenever she does some sort of, she basically listened to every single thing that Lori Vallow told her to do, and at certain points, she actually would call Chad dad and, listen to what Chad had to say. She would go to Chad and be like, "Hey, is this person dark? What should I do?" He would use his little pendulum. But yeah, so I was, as you know, when I watch the trials, on YouTube, I sometimes like I'll get suggested videos afterwards, and this video just somehow ended up popping up, and I was like, I want to recap the Chad Daybell trial one day. I want to watch it again, but I don't know, this video just kind of happened to pop up at the right time, and I was just like, you know what, let me watch it, let me see if there's any sort of damning evidence. Again, most of us believe that Melanie Pulowski is complicit in most of these crimes, and none of us understand why she wasn't convicted. Now, I get that there is kind of like you have to have enough probable cause, and also too, they only charge people with likelihood of conviction. But I don't know. The writing's on the wall with this one. In my opinion, this is not a case of like most of these things are hearsay. Melanie Pulowski was right beside Lori when most of these things happen, if not right beside her on a Zoom call, just a Zoom call away, when most of these things happen. And at one point, her kids almost suffered the same fate as Thalia and JJ if it weren't for the fact that Brandon Boudreaux, her now ex-husband, didn't take the kids and go into hiding. I genuinely believe that they would have had the same fate as Thalia and JJ. Now, if Boudreaux is a name that is very familiar to you, if you don't know anything about this case, hold on, let me take a drink of water. Okay. So Brandon Boudreaux's trial is the one that's right after Charles's trial. So after Lori is convicted or not convicted, hopefully convicted, of the murder of Charles, she's going to go into a second trial in Arizona, the attempted murder of her ex nephew-in-law, Brandon Boudreaux. Brandon Boudreaux, like I said, was formerly married to Melanie Pulowski, and she convinced Melanie that Brandon was gay, and said that he was dark, and Melanie believed her, and ultimately, like, she pushed. Oh, I mean, I don't know if they were having previous problems before this, but pushed a wedge between them, and there was an attempt on his life by Alex. Of course, Alex is the worst hitman known to mankind. He is 3-0 or 0-3. I don't know sports terms. When it comes to attempted unalivings, unfortunately, he did succeed in a few of them. But when it comes to being the hitman and discreetly doing these types of things, he is not a very good one, which I guess is kind of fortunate because now we have a lot of this testimony, and Brandon Boudreaux is alive to testify on the stand. He is the only living victim who will actually get to, you know, see his own trial through. And we are grateful for that. So anyway, yeah, this is Melanie Pulowski, formerly known as Melanie Boudreaux, testifying in Chad Daybell's trial. And this, like I said, even though this is Chad's trial, I think that there is a lot of damning evidence in this one. Now, okay, let me try to present again, because what I think happened was that I tried to share my screen, but instead I accidentally didn't click like add to stage. Okay. All right. Okay, I think we're there. Hopefully you can hear. Let me start the video, and then I'm gonna like quickly turn off my mic and then turn on my phone to see if this works.
Yes or no, I'm not sure exactly.
And was it your understanding that Chad always had to use?
Okay. I'm sure there's a better way to test that. Okay, so like I said, this is Melanie Pulowski, formerly known as Melanie Boudreaux, in the Chad Daybell trial. There's Chad, there's Bubby, or the Slug. I honestly do not know why Chad's trial was filmed and Lori's wasn't. But anyway, so yeah, this is Melanie Pulowski. I was very surprised to see the fact that she has brown hair. I didn't know that she dyed her hair at some point. Because she's like in most of the videos. Like I said, she's Lori's mini-me. She has blonde all the time. Anyway, let's continue.
Use that tool to discern light and dark?
From what I remember being told is that he didn't always need that. It was just something extra he could use.
She, by the way, she's talking about the pendulum that Chad had. I kind of had to go a little bit before this just so I caught all of the questioning.
At some point, did Chad and Lori teach you about castings?
Yes.
What do you recall them teaching you regarding castings?
From the basis of where it comes in the scriptures, where you raise your, actually, I don't even know if that specifically is in the scriptures, but where you raise your right hand and can cast out a dark spirit or a demon. But they would explain how to do that and the correct way to do that, or sharing different ideas on how what that could mean.
And did they teach you who castings would be done on or for?
Yes.
And who were those individuals?
That you could do, you could cast out at any time for anybody if you feel like you're being inflicted with some type of dark spirit or a bad feeling that anybody at any time could raise their right hand.
Okay, before she says who they did castings on, I just want to know. I'm just curious. And I don't know if you can see my little pointer here. Maybe. Okay. What is Chad doing? Why is it that in court and do all like I feel like a lot of delusional people who are in trial, they'll just like furiously, I can't even talk, write things down and talk to their attorneys when people are testifying. First of all, one, how do the attorneys like how are they able to listen and then listen to their, defendant or whatever at the same time? Also, what is Chad writing down? Honestly, does he have anything valuable to say in this case? As we know, he did not say a single thing or testify. I mean, maybe that's he's telling John Pryor what to say, but like again, I just noticed that like also in Lori's trial, she's always furiously writing things down. And someone, I believe it was Colby, said like, "What is she writing? Is she doodling? Like, what is Chad saying? Like he does he really have to be on his laptop and on his phone like this is like tax season or something like that? Like again, like what are you doing?" Anyway, that was just the point that I wanted to make. We're talking about castings. Melanie Boudreau is about to talk about who they did castings on. She said they do castings on people with dark spirits. Now, wait for this.
Hand of the square and cast out.
Did you?
Okay. Again, I'm sorry to pause this again. Anybody who's LDS, could you tell me what does raising your hand to the square mean? Like, is the square here? Like, what do you mean? Like when you raise, first of all, what is the square? Second of all, how do you raise your hand? Is it like that? Like, I just want to know. I'm just curious.
You participate in any castings?
Yes.
Do you recall who those castings were done on or for?
I remember one where Lori invited us over to do a casting on Charles.
And
Of
had
course.
Boom. Okay. Again, okay, first of all, did you hear that? They did castings on Charles. Again, why isn't Melanie Pulowski testifying in any of these other trials? She testified in Chad's trial. She should be brought to Arizona because she had knowledge of what's going on. Also, I got a good, like, what is this? Like a little lunchbox or something? I think it has something to do because like John Pryor has one too. Again, like, okay, and maybe this is because I'm a former teacher, but it would like it was one of those things like it would just annoy me. And I know, listen, I know kids are kids, like but it would annoy me when I'm talking and like a child would just be like talking on the side of it because I'm like listening. I just don't understand. Like, I know that there's very strict court etiquette. Why are these people talking during court? Like, I don't know. Anyway, I just noticed that during trial, but like Chad is not even paying attention. Like he, like in Lori's trial, her current trial, she's talked about how the state provided no evidence in her trial. Yeah, because you were talking the whole time. You were not listening. I mean, also too, I do believe that she wouldn't believe the evidence even if it like, smacked her in the face. So there's that. But again, what is Chad doing? Is he getting a little snack? Like I don't know what. Anyway, okay. I didn't end up playing this video. So she said, Melanie Pulowski said, they did castings on Charles specifically. That is so damning. Why didn't she testify in Charles's trial? I know that a lot of people said that, and I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm like lecturing you guys. You guys have nothing to do with it. But it's just one of those details. Again, I know that there's a lot of debate on whether or not there's enough information to prosecute Melanie Pulowski. And I honestly believe that they could. I don't know if she has any immunity in Idaho, but again, that does not qualify for Arizona. As far as I know, she did not make a deal with anybody in Arizona. But she could have. I mean, did any of the attorneys, did Trina K, look at this footage in preparation and see that literally Melanie Pulowski testified to the fact that they did castings? Like she, I feel like, is more reliable and more informative and less slimy than Serena Sharp, at least on the stand. Listen, I know that Melanie Pulowski probably lied through her teeth several times. And I know that a lot of people said that the reason why Trina K didn't call Melanie Pulowski, Melanie Gibb, or even Julie Rowe to the stand was just for the fact that these people are unlikable, and not very trustworthy. So maybe a lot of maybe the jury or the gallery would see them as in a prejudicial way, and I get that. But again, Melanie Pulowski literally said that she like they did castings on Charles. Anyway, let's continue.
Charles.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
And you said it was done on Charles?
Yes.
Had you been told anything in relation to Charles being dark at that point?
I think at that time they believed, and Lori and Chad believed Charles was affected by some type of dark spirit.
When you participate in a casting, is the person there? So was Charles physically present when you participated in the casting?
No.
And as part of the casting, was anything physically being done to Charles?
As I'm not
By
trying to
any of you?
understand. Oh, no.
So he's not there. No one's laying hands on him during a casting.
No.
At some point, did you learn whether or not JJ had been labeled as dark?
Yes.
And what did you learn in relation to that?
An objection based on foundation
And Your Honor, I'm just asking broadly if at some point she learned that.
and suburb.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what is happening. Maybe it's just like the microphones for this trial in particular, but one of the things that kind of annoyed me was the fact that anytime John Pryor would object, I don't know if he just like had his mic off or only the court could hear him, but like you could not hear his objections. So there'd just be like these weird pauses. And then of course you'd hear like the judge say either overruled or sustained. And then you realize like, oh, John Pryor objected. Cause like at this point, like again, I mean, I have a tiny screen in front of me. So like maybe I just can't see John Pryor like say anything, but like he's objecting. Anyway.
At some point, did you learn that JJ had been deemed dark?
Yes.
Do you recall what you learned in relation to that?
I don't remember.
Okay, I think we're kind of done with this part because we're talking about Charles right now. So, I mean, we could watch this stuff all day. Maybe one day we will. But yeah. So as you saw, Melanie Boudreau testified to the fact that there were certain people who were deemed dark, including Charles. Charles was he was the subject of a casting where they, try to cast evil spirits out of him, which is something that I feel like Lori has tried to deny several times, saying that that was not true, blah, blah, blah. Again, proof her niece, literally, who would do anything for Lori, testified to that in Chad Daybell's trial. Now, the third video I want to watch, this one was just kind of like put in at the final hour. This was a video. It was actually an interview of Charles Vallow's ex-wife. And I just kind of wanted to talk about it. I think it's a very damning interview. She also says a few things that I feel like are a little bit insightful and things that we're all thinking about. One thing I wonder is, and I know that Charles's two sons that he had with his previous marriage with this woman, I believe that they have said they have chosen to stay out of the spotlight, especially during this case. They, I believe, are not in the courtroom. And this is again during Lori Vallow's first trial where they did attend. I don't know if they attended every single day. And at least one of her sons went with her. I do not know if she has attended any other day of court. I don't even know if like she is somebody who would be recognizable. I don't know how many people know of her. Like, does she sit with the family? Does she, like, even if she went to court, like, does she want to be known? So anyway, so I'm just rambling now. This is just a video that I saw, again, popped up when I was watching when I was watching true crime videos. And this is Charles Vallow's ex-wife, the one that he was married to before Lori. Now, I don't know the exact dates of their marriage, or even like, when they got divorced, or how soon he waited until he married Lori. But yeah, anyway.
See Chandler PD come and testify. What were your thoughts on that and bringing up, Charles Vallow?
I was surprised as well. We didn't know that that was going to be even allowed into this case. So it's interesting to hear that that's a factor, which we always knew it was, but that they're introducing it in the court.
Yeah, the prosecution cited the Idaho law 404B, crimes that could, set a motive. What stood out to you with what Chandler PD was talking about with how the crime scene unfolded and what they found with Charles, in the home?
I wish they would have acted sooner. It sounds like they didn't engage until January. We were not aware of the multiple shots.
Okay. Again, she is asking the same question that Charles Vallow's former attorney asked. Why didn't anybody investigate sooner? Again, we are with you. This is a question we all have.
Taken at Charles. The stories have changed, and I think that is definitely a motive. Melanie Gibbon, her testimony was incorrect about the life insurance timing. Lori didn't know until after Charles had been killed. So
that has, provided inconsistencies, because from what we know, yeah, Lori didn't find out until after. She made a claim and she found out the hard way, and she definitely let Kay know that she was upset about that. Now back to the detective, having to sit there with your son, your family, and hear this phone call that Chad made to the mortuary. First off, just what was that like?
Okay, he's referring to the Chad Daybell call. So basically what happened was Chad Daybell, I believe before or like right after Charles passed away, he called a mortuary pretending like he needed to, I believe, cremate his brother or friend or something like that. When they asked, "May I ask who I'm speaking with?" He came out with the most brilliant fake name. It was Chad. Wait for it. Daybell. Chad Daybell. Who would have thought? Chad Daybell, Chad Daybell. Like, you could have fooled me. But yeah, so he called the mortuary asking about cremation prices, which, again, she'll reply to this.
I had heard the call before. It was almost funny. It was very odd. I think that I didn't know Chad was involved at that point until we'd heard that call and how involved he was. So that was news to us when we originally heard it, probably late 2019.
And does it anger you at all that that's what he was manipulating the situation and lying?
Oh, yes, because the people to decide that should have been his sons, not Chad and Lori. And certainly not Lori, and definitely not Chad.
Cheryl, it's been
Okay. Before we go into a few more questions from Nate Eaton, who was also there. Well, he is the one who reports for East Idaho News. The first person you heard speaking is Justin Lum. Justin Lum is the person reporting on the Charles Vallow murders because he reports in Arizona. So actually, I believe he attended both trials just, to see these things through. Anyway, but before we keep going, I do want to listen to the Chad Daybell call. I think that is something I haven't listened to it. I've just heard about it, and I was like, you know what? Why don't I do it with all of you? All right. Mortuary call. I don't even know if this is online. Okay. Chad called funeral home hours after Charles Vallow was killed. So this is not before, this was after. Yay. The slug. Sorry. Hold on. Let me make sure that share screen. Okay. Let me make sure that I'm presenting. Add to stage. All right, so this is the funeral home call. Is it this long or is there like an actual? I think it's the actual call. Okay. All right, I've never heard this before. So we're going to hear it for the first time together.
Third right answer.
Funeral home?
Hello, my name is I'm with their calls. How can I help you today?
We just had a death in the family, and we really don't want anything but a cremation, and then to send the cremains to a family in Louisiana. Just as
That is, we really don't want anything other than a cremation and to send the cremains to Louisiana. Also, I really resent the fact that I have to look at his face this whole time. This is the worst picture ever. Anyway, how heartless do you have to be? Like, you already murdered this guy. I mean, he didn't like physically do it, but he did conspire. And then instead of allowing his family to make the decision of whether or not what he should do with his remains. Also, I do want to note, again, and this is another tangent. A lot of times, so Mormons are not so the Mormon religion, the LDS religion, they do not like condemn cremation. But from a lot of Mormons and ex-Mormons who have talked about this, they have said that cremating is not the first choice that a lot of people will make. Most of the time when a death happens. Um, and it is one of those things. It's kind of like last resort. It's just not ideal. You can cremate obviously due to like money reasons, but it's not one of those things that is normal. Just imagine most of the deaths that happened in this family, in the Vallow family, now Daybell, I guess family, um, the cremation has happened. And like I said, we talked about the cremation, my frustration with this like whole like, oh, I want my wife cremated right after her funeral. Or whatever. Thankfully Tammy was not cremated because I really think it would have been hard to prove her death. Anyway, but yeah, again, this is a choice that this guy, Chad, is not even supposed to be making. Also, Lori was not even supposed to be making. It should have been his sons, or even Kay, who would have made the choice to cremate Charles. Instead, you have this guy over here who's the ultimate socializer. Like, just listening to his voice, like, I just want to put this thing on 2 times speed. Like, come on.
simple, no, nothing other than a cremation and sending him to his family for a service in Louisiana. So, is there any way to know a ballpark price on that?
Yes, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Okay, let me transfer you over to the director who can assist you with the pricing. What is your name,
Okay.
please?
It is Chad Daybell,
How do you spell the last name, please?
Dabal, Daybell.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so he said Chatterville, and then like I think he realized he was like, maybe I shouldn't say my actual name. So you know what? Let me just go with Dabal, Chad Dayball. He, oh my god, like this guy does not have a creative bone in his body, which what honestly works to our advantage because, um, he obviously got caught and he's not the most stealthy person. Also, I'm like playing with this fidget toy and I think it's leaking. Like my hands are kind of sticky. Anyway, okay, this is the first time I'm ever hearing this.
How are you related to the person who passed?
I'm his nephew.
He's Charles Vallow's nephew. First of all, why would a nephew? I mean, okay, listen, again, family, there's different dynamics. I don't think I've ever heard of a nephew calling for their uncle's death, like their uncle's cremation. Also, Chad, dude, you're like literally the same age as Charles, and you do not sound young at all. Anyway,
And then also, this is for the Valley of the Suns in Chandler, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, he lives there in Chandler. I live in Iowa, so I'm just
How,
Okay, are both of these people on Xanax? Like when I tell you, like the first caller, I mean, maybe also too, I think people who work at mortuaries probably have to have a calm voice, not to, it's already a stressful situation when you have a death in the family and you don't want to make it more stressful. But these people, this is like literally like, those like podcasts where it's like, story time for sleep or whatever. Like these people could literally put me to sleep. But honestly, like I feel like I'd have nightmares if I went to sleep with Chad's voice. Like I could not imagine. Like I feel like the whole LDS Warren Jeffs type of voice is just not for me. And yeah, it was definitely something I'd rather listen to like a Stephen King novel to go to sleep than listen to Chad's voice. I feel like Chad's voice would give me nightmares.
trying to help out.
oh, okay, thank you. Yes, what is your uncle's name for reference, please?
He is John Daybell.
Your last name?
John Dayball. That's his uncle's name, by the way. So he's just getting a price. He's just getting. So here's what's gonna happen. Okay, he's gonna get the price for his uncle John Dayball. He's gonna go into the mortuary, get Charles's remains to be like, what's your name, sir? It's like, oh, Chad Daybell. Oh, that's crazy because we just had a Chad DeBall come in the other day. Like, are you related to him? It's like, no, like I don't like, yeah, his uncle John DeBall passed away. I mean, they never called back, so they probably got like a price elsewhere that was better. But yeah, that's just crazy that I got, two people with very similar names at the mortuary at the same time. Like I just this dude.
Well, P-A-D-A-L.
Yeah.
The same. John. Uh-huh.
Do you have a middle name?
Myron.
M-Y-R-O-N?
Yeah.
And Chad, what is your phone number in case we get this?
John Myron DeBall. Is there like a John Myron? I'm curious. Like as we know, Chad Daybell is not the best at coming up with names. So I'm wondering if there is such thing as a John Myron. Okay, there's nobody like actually coming up, so it might have just been somebody in Chad's personal life. I really highly doubt that he would have thought of Myron on the fly. But yeah, anyway, that was interesting.
Disconnected.
Yeah. This number 515. I don't actually know my own number.
Okay, first of all, I'm sure he doesn't know his own number because one, either he's trying to hide it, or two, he has a burner phone.
Something like real good.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Is he at a nursing home, hospital, or residence?
He passed away in a hospital. I don't know the details. I'm just calling you.
Yeah, it's just for to know because sometimes it's different if it's a residential or hospital or nursing home.
I'm
Okay.
thinking they're sending him to the medical examiner. I'm not sure. I should have had more information before I called. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, because we all know that like when somebody passes away, the number one person that should be calling the mortuary is your nephew who doesn't know anything about your death other than the fact that you died. Like, yeah, that's the job for you. Like, I don't know many details of his death, but yet you're the one they trusted to call for pricing at the mortuary. I mean, this is like such a dysfunctional family.
Alright. Cremation with shipping. To which stumps? Which city?
New Orleans. Louisiana. Mm-hmm.
Okay, one moment please, Chad, but stay on the line. Let me
Okay.
transfer you over to the director who can assist you with that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Chad.
Yeah.
Thank you for holding. I do have the director, Clarissa, to further assist you.
Okay. Thank
Thank you. Hi, my name is Funeral Director with Thalia Mortuary Cemetery. I understand that your uncle passed away.
you. Yes. And I'm just starting the process for the family. He didn't have many relatives. I'm his nephew. I live in Iowa. But what
I'm
they
sorry to
want
hear
to
that.
do is, yeah, sad to see him go. Yeah, I think he's going to the medical examiner. I don't know all the details, but what the family basically wants is just to have him cremated there in Chandler and then have his cremains shipped to New Orleans, and we'll
Okay.
bill up the service later. So just trying to get a ballpark price.
I mean, we all know, if your uncle, and I'm sure you have connections to their native city. We all know that, like, if your uncle grew up in New Orleans, they would be pronouncing it New Orleans. Like, Chad, you need to get it better. Like, at least, like, play into it. If you're trying to pretend like you're the grieving nephew, at least have like some sort of accent or something, or like, at least pronounce the city that you're shipping your uncle's remains to correctly. Like, I I just don't. I can't with this call right now.
Okay. So for a cremation, we are able to do our cremation for $1,695. Now, what that's going to include is the transportation into our care, the transportation to and from our crematory, our basic professional fees, as well as our crematory fee. Now, there's going to be a couple other charges there for you.
Okay.
So we are going to have death certificates.
I just want everybody who works at this crematory / mortuary needs to check the gas on the not the urns. What are they called? Kilns? No, it's not a kiln. That was very bad. There might be a gas leak because these people are literally like the most tired sounding people ever. And like I said, it might just be the fact that when you work at a funeral home, you probably have to have a calm and collected voice. But like when like it's almost like I feel like it would make me more stressed out. I'm like, what are you guys on? Like, is there a gas leak in this funeral home? Do I need to be worried?
Which are $20 a piece with a processing fee,
Okay.
$15 permit fee,
All right.
and then we're able to do that transfer through the mail for you, and that's $150 fee for you.
Okay. Like the UPS or something, I guess.
Okay.
UPS, FedEx, like all the best for my uncle. Like, at least maybe like a USPS situation. I don't like. Does it matter?
So close about 2,000 probably, kind of a ballpark. Yeah.
Close to, yeah.
Okay.
Let me remind you that this guy wants the most bare bones cremation for Charles Fallow, his now wife's former husband, who was murdered. And they, at this point, still believe that they're getting a $1 million life insurance policy. So they are going to be coming into some money soon, which is, as we all know, that did not work out. But these people know that they think they're going to be rich within, a few weeks after Lori calls the insurance company to claim the insurance. And they're just trying to get the most bare bones, you know, last what is it called? Like last not last rights, but bare bones, like, death plan available. $2,000 to cremate and ship Charles's remains to New Orleans. I mean, that's just cruel. That's cruel, honestly.
Well, that helps me a lot. I'm going to call one or two others, but I'll get back to you if we come that direction. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. If you need anything else, give me a call.
Okay.
Now, I'm really curious to know if he called other crematories, like if maybe this was just the only crematory that like recorded calls. I don't know what protocol is for that. But yeah, I wonder if he used like Chad DeBall and all the other ones, or if it because he knew that they were gonna ask his name, he like had more time. But yeah, anyway, that was interesting. Oh yeah, by the way, the reason why we watched that video is because we were watching Charles Fallow's ex-wife talk about this video. Let's continue watching. We're almost done. After this video, I think I'm gonna call it a night, but let's go ahead and watch it. Stop screen, present. Okay. I also apologize. I do not know this woman's name. But yeah. Anyway, I think we were to the part where Nate Eaton, reporter of East Idaho News, is interviewing her.
The prosecution.
Okay, I just realized.
They seem they've got it together.
I just realized I was not sharing the screen. I'm sorry. Okay. I'll fast forward a little bit. Okay.
People,
Or
what are your
go back.
thoughts as you sat here this week with your family?
We're glad it's finally here. I'm impressed with the prosecution. They seem they've got it together. Maybe it's a very difficult, complicated case. So I can see the time spent on this and lawyers changing and venues changing. And it's just, we're glad we're here and able to see what's going on and how it goes.
What's it like to see Lori?
It's interesting. It's not pleasant. I haven't seen her in years. I have probably spent more time with her in that courtroom than I ever have in my life. So, but I don't like her demeanor. I don't like the smiling, the laughing, the chit-chatting. This is very serious, and she's not taking it seriously. Doesn't appear to me.
Would you say her demeanor has been very inconsistent, unpredictable throughout this week?
I think it's consistent other than the day with the pictures. I think, but I don't.
Before we keep going, she's referring to the part where so in the trial they were showing the autopsy photos of her two kids, and she threw a fit and decided that, or Lori threw a fit and decided that she didn't want to go to court that day, so she refused to go. She asked her attorneys if they could request that she forwent that particular day. She said, I don't think I need to be watching these. And the judge thankfully said, just because, like you're gonna make us all watch them, you're gonna make the jury, you're gonna traumatize the jury, the gallery, to all watch or look at these autopsy photos, you're gonna have to do it as well. And apparently she didn't watch them. She basically like kept her head down the whole time. But just the audacity of her to throw a fit, saying that she doesn't want to see these videos. I'm sorry, it's very late at night. When other people had to endure them, that's what she's referring to.
With her, I think it was an act. It's the thinking in her brain that she doesn't have to look at those pictures, but everyone else sitting in that courtroom has to, and she's the cause. So I was glad the judge ruled that she needed to stay in the courtroom.
And how do you absorb listening to this patriarchal blessing done by Chad Daybell for Alex Cox, the the person who killed the father of your sons, and then Alex, we know, dies just weeks later, and it was very eerie to hear his voice and the crying on this audio.
It was. And when Chad said, you've helped us in so many ways, that just stood out to me. It seems almost like they were giving him his last rites because he was dead within 2 weeks of that blessing. Um, but it's the fact that he would have done all that destruction. I mean, I had to stop myself and go, wait a minute, there's 4 or 5 people dead and 2 children dead at the time they were doing that blessing.
So he was dead 2 weeks later. Of course, there's been no suspicious circumstances, they say, but do you think there's something more?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Same with Joe Ryan. I think that's wild.
I'm really glad that she brought up Joe Ryan. I think that is just so telling that you know, the ex-wife of somebody who we all know, Lori conspired to murder. She feels like Joe Ryan's death was also suspicious. Again, she's referring to Joe Ryan, Thalia Ryan's biological father. He mysteriously passed away. They deemed his death natural causes twice. So the likelihood of anybody investigating, and I believe he was also cremated, so I don't know if they will be able to investigate or do an autopsy again. But the likelihood of him, them investigating his death is very small. But I just want to say that Annie Cushing's Joseph Ryan's sister, she has a petition that for the Arizona police to investigate his death. Anyway, let me continue.
Bodies are getting cremated, and Lori's in charge of each one of them, and she takes advantage of it.
Are you concerned that they won't be able to prove a conspiracy with Lori because it doesn't seem like she gets her hands dirty even with this blessing and the phone call? Chad is doing, the deed.
I think it was Chad and Alex, but the behavior of Lori when her kids were gone since September, she didn't tell anyone. She covered it up, saying they're happy. I know exactly where they are. That tells me a lot.
Can't go. Do this.
Ooh, okay. All right, we don't want to watch that. So yeah. Anyway, also she made a good point. I thought that we already covered this because we did cover it in the previous video that I was watching, or the previous video that I was making that I didn't share the screens on. But I just want to say, like, again, it's such a red flag when somebody says, my spouse passed away, I want to cremate them immediately. Again, she's asking, why are they cremating all these people? Like I said, in the LDS church, it's not normal for people to be cremated. Most of the time, they prefer you to be buried because they believe that when you die and you're buried, when the second coming is ushered, you will be basically like resurrected with your full body, and your full body will work to its fullest extent. And so when you are buried instead of cremated, it's just like, I guess the time that you are resurrected is a lot less than if you're cremated. It's still possible to be resurrected when you're cremated, but it's much easier apparently if you are not. So I don't know. I just find it very suspicious that all these people are just cremated, especially people who come from families who are considered very strict LDS. It just is another example of Lori picking and choosing her picking and choosing her beliefs. But yeah, anyway, so we watched that video. I guess it was 4 important videos, for this title. We listened to the Chad Daybell phone call for the first time. I did not expect to do that today. It was again, very sad, but also hilarious. Just the fact that Chad is the worst liar and storyteller ever. He could not pretend. He could not pretend for one instant that John Myron Daybell. I would not believe, if I was that lady at the mortuary, I would not believe for a second that John Myron Daybell was an actual person. But yeah, anyway, so like I said, I thought I was going to be doing the Richard Allen interrogation video right after this one, but it is, I would say, I believe about 2 hours long. So, and it's late. And like I said, I recorded this whole video beforehand, and I realized that the sound was not on for any of the videos, and I wasn't sharing my screen. So, but yeah. Anyway, thank you for sticking with me. It's super late. I'm gonna go to bed. And yeah, I hope all of y'all have a great, if you have the weekend off, like I do. I hope you have a great weekend. Celebrate Easter. I hope you have a great happy Easter. Um so yeah, now I will probably my next video on this case. I think I will still do the Delphi one video before this one. But if I do, my next video on the Lori Vallow Daybell trial will be the recap for week 2. And then we're going into week 3 on Monday. I believe that so they did jury instructions today or yesterday, depending on where you are time zone wise. But now we will go into Lori resting in front of the jury, hopefully, because she said she decided to release everybody from their subpoenas, which, again, so that means that she will not be interviewing anybody. And even though she's still up in the air with testifying, she said, I might not. I don't know. It does look like she will rest on Monday. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Lonnie Dworkin will come in at the nth hour, save the day, and prove that Lori's not guilty. Anyway, again, jokes. But yeah, so Monday we will have Lori hopefully resting, because I genuinely think that maybe she believes that like the state has not proved their case. She even said that in one of her motions. Again, I will cover this in my recap or my reaction or whatever I'm doing, and then yeah, we have, I guess, depending on how long the trial or the jury deliberates, we will have one more week of this trial, and then after, I believe at the end of May, they will start. End of May, mid-May. I wasn't sure on the date. I know that Lori wanted to have Brandon Boudreaux's trial on May 11th, but then they said, listen, like we were expecting this trial to go on longer. We haven't subpoenaed anybody. We haven't had time to interview people. She's adamant on her speedy trial. I honestly believe that she wants her speedy trial just for the fact that, if she doesn't get it, maybe like she can declare mistrial or something. I don't know. But or maybe she's just tired of being in Maricopa. She complained basically the whole time with her interview with Arizona Family about the conditions in Maricopa. So maybe she wants to go. Maybe that's why she's resting. Maybe she's just tired. Poor Lori. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, next week we will have hopefully a verdict. So I believe sentencing will be going on after Brandon Boudreaux's trial, so we will not know how many years she's getting in prison. But obviously, she's going back to Idaho to do her 3 life sentences before this one. And if she's really an immortal translated being, that means she has to live all of these sentences until she's out. So yeah, anyway, I guess we'll really figure out within the next 100 years whether or not if she's translated or not. Anyway, I don't think I have any other updates. Thank you if you, I don't know, late night crew. It's almost 2:40, almost 3 in the morning. Yeah, I don't know. Today was an interesting day as far as personal life. I don't know, I had a snafu at work that I want to forget. But thankfully I have a long weekend to just unwind. But yeah, anyway, again, like I said, happy Easter to all of you who celebrate. I'm kind of what is it? They would call it a cafeteria Catholic. I don't really believe, or I don't believe at all in the Catholic religion, but I grew up Catholic and I still like to celebrate the Catholic holidays to the point where I do think I will have an Easter egg hunt for my dogs because I don't have any kids. I do have dogs, and I think it would be fun to see them Easter egg hunt. Anyway, That was just a fun little tidbit. Also, by the way, this camel I just put in there because I was like, oh, look, a hook that I need to put something on. And then I was like, oh, the camel. I got that one, or I got him from Kuwait when I used to live there. I'll hopefully like eventually like set up my background a little bit better. But yeah, anyway, I'm just rambling. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for watching all of those videos. If you want to like, subscribe, comment, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you'd like to, I'd greatly appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for watching. And again, have a great weekend. Bye.